Hello, welcome to the I'm Excited podcast. I'm your host, David Hicks, but I am especially happy to have with me today Alex Powell. I first started working with Alex here at the branch doing children's ministry together. She has a fantastic heart for children, for Jesus, and so we're going to be doing an interview today that I think will not only be able to bless you, it will give you blessings that you'll be able to use and help others as well. So, Alex, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so first thing I want to just ask is please just tell us about your general family background and just your dynamics, what is Alex's family look like?
We've lived here for 15 years now. I have 2 younger sisters, and I live with my parents and my sisters, and then we have a couple pets at home. That's about it.
Okay, so sounds pretty normal background. You've lived here in Texas all your life?
Not all my life. I moved from Oklahoma when I was 4.
Okay, all right, so most of your life. Yeah. Now, since birth, you've had a disability to deal with, you've had an obstacle to overcome that most of us don't identify with or struggle with. Please tell us, what is your struggle that you've had since birth?
I've had cerebral palsy since I was born.
Okay, cerebral palsy. For the person unfamiliar with that, how does that affect you on a daily basis?
Well, it depends on the person. It depends on how bad they have it. I'm lucky and I don't have a bad case. It really just affects my legs most of all, and I'm not able to walk without support. So I do use my wheelchair most of the time, and I use crutches. Most people, it affects their whole body, but like I said, I'm lucky enough to have a little case, and it affects my core a little bit too, just since my legs aren't strong enough. So I do have to have support, throughout the day, but nothing that affects my life too much.
Okay, all right. So that's one thing I already see in you, is that you're saying, yes, I have cerebral palsy, but it's not as bad as what it could be. Mm-hmm. Growing up, when was the first time that you noticed that you were different than the children around you? When was the first time it started to actually hit you that you had a struggle that other children didn't have?
I think school. Probably about kindergarten, when I could kind of wrap my head around that most people, I wasn't in a wheelchair at school till my late middle school years, so I used crutches in school, and I think when I saw that most people were not necessarily in canes or in a wheelchair when they weren't hurt, I think that was kind of when I wrapped my head around that I was a little different, or I had something going on that others did not.
How did your parents help you cope with that?
I don't think it didn't affect me in a bad way until later on when I started dealing with people bullying and stuff like that. They helped in all ways they could. I went to the doctor for what I needed. We were able to support me with canes and crutches and wheelchairs and just anything that I would need to make my life easier throughout the day.
Describe then, how would you describe the love and the treatment your parents had given you?
Awesome. Luckily, we're very blessed to have enough money to be able to support us and be able to give me everything that I need for my disability. They're awesome.
That is fantastic. Now, you believe in God. Mm-hmm. You believe in Jesus. How did this come about? Tell me about your faith journey.
When we first moved to Texas, for a lot of years, we went from church to church and never really found a home. And then we came to the branch, I think it was 7, no, maybe not 7, I don't know how many years ago now, and I went to the youth classroom, and I was welcomed from the start. They pulled up a chair for me, and I felt at home, and so did my parents with Chris in the big service. And so it kind of just became a family church, and then I started serving in kids branch, and that really pushed me to learn more about the Bible and all that, so I could show it to the kids and let them work on their journey with Christ.
When did you make the decision that I'm all in, I'm following Jesus?
It was after I did kids camp throughout the summer here, and after my second year, I felt really moved to just follow him completely, to just everything that I did needed to be in his name. And so I got baptized after my second year of kids camp here, and I think ever since then I've been really in my walk with Christ and all of that.
Love it, love it. How old were you when that was?
I think 15 or 16.
Okay, so it's been about 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to dive into how cerebral palsy has affected your life in the battle with faith and that kind of thing. We were in class in this very room together and reading a story to the preschoolers, to the tykes, and we read the story about Jesus healing a lame man. And I think you were the one that actually read the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a few weeks ago, we were in worship. We were singing a song, and the line in the song was, "It is God's will that I be healed." And I was thinking of you because you were there. I knew you were there in the audience. And just to give you a little bit more about my background, is I have a wife who's chronically ill, and has been for decades. We've never figured out. We don't. There's no disease we know of to attach to it. Doctors never understood what's going on, and so she's asked for healing often and prayed for healing often. And it's not, there's been a limit to how bad it's been, but it's not, there's not a time where I can look back and say, she was healed. And it's been a struggle for her, it's a battle for her. And so what has that been like though for you? When you see these stories in the Bible about Jesus healing, when we sing songs like that, how does it affect you? How do you wrestle and cope with those things and maintain your faith?
It's hard, especially when you go through all the things that go along with his disability. But I will always have cerebral palsy. There's no overcoming it. Even if I'm able to walk one day, I'll still be classified under cerebral palsy. I think it's more with my other health issues that have came along with it that has been me wanting healing for that. So I think that's made the battle a little harder to fight. But it's been a lot of praying and going to him and realizing that all this pain or whatever that I'm going through is for him, and there's a purpose for it in the end.
I love that. I love it. You see purpose in the pain, purpose in the. And I will witness to you. One of the things that I see is just children are just so drawn to you, and the thing is, you're already on their level, and they look straight at you, and they're able to connect to you in a way that 6'2" David can't connect with unless I just really get down on my knees, and which isn't easy because when you get down on your knees, you get attacked by plastic stakes and bugs and all those kinds of things. But anyway, so I will say I have seen that purpose myself. Now you talk about other health issues. What has been coming along with this cerebral palsy?
We're not sure if it has anything to do with it or not, but I do have a lot of stomach issues. And over the last year, we have figured out some lung and heart issues. Nothing is bad, but this tricky part is that no doctors have been able to figure out my stomach yet. They have been able to figure out my heart and lungs, or at least a little bit of it. That's going to help me. But no doctors can figure out my stomach, so that's been the biggest battle.
Okay, so that's been a bit of a burden to bear on top of everything else.
Yeah.
All right, you talked about bullying. And as long as I've known you, that's one of the things that was a constant in your struggle at school, being bullied by other students. How far does that go back? When was it first beginning? What have you experienced in the form of bullying?
I've experienced probably a lot. If you were to name something, I've probably been called it, or it's probably happened to me. It's been since I've been around kids. I mean, it's not just in school, it's every public place. I mean, there's going to be people that say stuff, and even though it's been more so in school, It got super bad during my middle and high school years. There was this one person who gave me a hard time throughout middle school, and they never really did anything about it. And then we got to high school, and my freshman year was online. And so sophomore year I come in, and it's basically like freshman year, we don't know anything. And so she's just about as an issue, and I went to go tell my assistant principal at the time, and my assistant principal basically told me that I was lying and it wasn't happening. And so that was a rough journey, and she kept doing stuff throughout the years. And so finally I went to another assistant principal, and he was able to help me out, and we kind of got it situated. Or, I mean, people still said stuff, but at least I had people by my side, and I had a lot of good friends. And towards senior year, I met my boyfriend, and so just having people like that with me was very nice.
Their support helped you get through the bullying.
Yeah.
Is there an example that you'd like to feel comfortable sharing from within school, but then I'm intrigued by what you encountered outside of school?
In school, it was just simple things like you're ugly, you're fat, you're slow, which is funny because my wheelchair goes pretty fast. I always laugh about that. But in school, it was just stupid things like that because you don't really, especially in high school, you're just passing people in the hallway really fast, so it's just what can they get out of their mouth while they're passing you. Outside of school, it's been more, I would still call it bullying, but more people just getting mad. Like one time I was in a restaurant, and it was really tight and it was really crowded, and so I told this lady to move her foot, and she did not, and so I ran over just like tiny tip of it because she didn't move. I thought she moved it, and she got all mad and she started yelling and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did not realize. Jesus talks about loving your enemies, praying for those who are mean to you, those kinds of things. Have you been able to embrace that teaching of Jesus in your life, do you feel?
At times. It's been hard, especially the one girl I brought up in school. Since she was an issue for almost 5-6-ish years, that was hard. And, people like the lady in the restaurant, like, if you're going to do that, that I need to pray and I need to do better with it. And I have been doing better when it's happened, but now that I'm out of school and stuff, it doesn't happen as much. So I definitely need to get better, but I was doing it from time to time.
Okay. I wanted to ask you, okay, so you minister a ton to children.
Mm-hmm.
What draws you to children, and help our audience first understand how much you work with children, and then what draws you to them? What do you love about children?
So my jobs right now are I work for LAC, and I do their extended school day, so I'm there every day of the week after school. And then I work here at the church 2 or 3 nights a week, it depends on when she needs me. And then I do have another job that I'm gonna get that has to deal with babies, and it's only 2 times a week, but I'm with all age groups, well, in elementary. And I don't know what really drew me to kids because I was never really around them. I'm trying to think of my first, I was with Kids Camp the first year that it came back after COVID, and I really enjoyed it. And so I asked if I could start ministering and stuff in the Tykes room, so this room, and I moved up with those kids, and now they're in 1st grade. And so I think that's been my big reason to keep going is them. So my goal is to move up with them through 5th grade, and if not more. But I don't really know what drew me to kids in the first place.
Yeah.
I just tried Kids Camp that one year, and since then that's all my jobs have been, and that's what I love doing.
Okay. All right. Sometimes God can get you where you need to be without you really understanding that's what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen pictures of you with horses.
Mm-hmm.
It's obvious you love horses. Tell us about that, and has anything in having horses in your life helped you in coping with cerebral palsy?
I started riding horses when I first moved down to Texas, and it was more of the therapeutic aspect. It wasn't riding, but I would stand up on the horses, and I was with my mom and a bunch of trainers, so it was more of the therapy part of it. And then I left horseback riding for a while, not really sure why, but we did, and I went into dance for a little bit, and then I left dance and I came back to horseback riding, and I fell in love with this one stable we were at. They ended up closing down due to their own issues, but I fell in love with horseback riding now. I fell in love with competing and all of the stuff within it. I love the connection that you get with a horse, especially therapeutic horses. They're super nice and super sweet because they're trained to be like that. You know, if they're not going to be therapeutic. So doing that and then competing really helped. But with cerebral palsy, it helps with my core because you're sitting on top of a horse that's going however fast, you make it. And so you're trying to stay on the horse. And even though you have stirrups like holding you in, it's still your body moves from side to side. And so it's definitely helped my strength, which is nice because I also love doing it. So both of those things put together is win-win.
So despite having cerebral palsy, you found even an actual sport in which you could compete. Now, what do you do in competition? What form of?
I do 3 things. One of them is called trail, so it is pretty much what it sounds like. They put out poles or ropes or whatever, and you have to do certain things while you're on the horse, like backing up or trotting through it, which is running, or walking, whatever. I do that most of all. And then the second one that I do is showmanship, and that's when you're walking around the outside of the arena, and the judge is either telling you to stop, trot, walk, and it's how well your connection is with the horse. And then the third thing I do is in my wheelchair, and it's kind of like the same thing, but you're holding him while you're in your wheelchair, and basically you have to go from side to side on the horse while the judge is judging how well you're getting the horse to stay and getting the horse to just listen to you, basically.
Okay, so they're looking at the connection you have with the horse and how well the horse is listening to you.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. I wanted to ask you this. How has the struggle, we've talked about how you've seen purpose in the pain. What are some of the actual benefits that you've had from this with cerebral palsy? How has it made you a better person?
I think it's caused me a lot more understanding. A lot of people are quick to judge, and I've never been quick to judge. I like to hear everybody's side of the story because you never know what someone's going through. Like even with my boyfriend, before we met, I had no idea what he went through, and so obviously I wasn't quick to judge, and I heard him out, and now it worked out for the better because like handicap seating, he needed that too, and so it worked out in the end. And I realized that my purpose, to have CP or cerebral palsy, whatever you want to call it, it all works out in the end because you're going to be around the people who need you most. And so I love sharing my story with, like, my dad works for the city, and so sharing my story with everybody involved there has gotten my story out to so many people, and just how inspiring it is, or how they say how inspiring it is and stuff like that. So it's definitely helped realizing that people are quick to judge, but I've never been too quick to judge because you want to hear people's side of the story.
That's fantastic. Let me ask this, or let me paint a picture this way. We have a child, they just learned they have cerebral palsy, or they're just now coming to understand that. Speak to them. What would you want them to know?
I would want them to know, first off, that they're not alone. It's, like I said, I don't have a bad case, and there's people who have it even less than me. I know an old intern at this church, he is able to walk, and I mean, he does walk differently than others, but like he's even stronger than me. And so this kid is not alone, and this kid is going to make it through. And that's why I would, like I was talking about earlier, I worship and I preach God's word because I want these kids to know that they're not alone. He's with them every step. Because I wish I would have known that when I was little. Because, like I said, we jumped from church to church. We never really found a church. And my parents, I mean, they told me about God and stuff, but it wasn't like I talked about the subject every night. And so I want those kids to know that when they're in the presence of God, they're known and they're seen and they'll make it through.
That's beautiful. I love what you just said. That the struggle with feeling that you're alone in whatever genre of struggle you might have is a card that Satan often plays. And I found that with my own struggles, they're different, but I felt like I was alone. And then when I opened up about how I was feeling, I learned I was not alone. Mm-hmm. And so I love the fact that you shared that. Now, speaking to parents, they learn their child has cerebral palsy. They're from birth here, or is that the only way? Can it develop older?
I'm pretty sure you can only get it when it's at birth because it's caused by low oxygen during birth. So I'm pretty sure you're always born with it. Okay,
so they have a newborn. Child has cerebral palsy. What would you want to tell those parents?
Once again, that they're not alone, and it doesn't even have to do with just cerebral palsy. It has to do with every person has a disability, mental or physical, whether they know it or not, whether it's big or small. And so everybody goes through something in life, and it's not, even though theirs is more physical and obviously more known, that it's their kid. And once again, when they go to God and ask for help, God's going to provide for them, and God's going to help them with whatever they might need, if that's money, if that's doctors, if that's whatever they need for that kid with CP or not, that they're not alone. And when you pray to God, you're going to get, well, not necessarily going to get what you need, but God's going to give you his plan, and it's going to provide everything in the future.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. Are you on social media? You said that, right?
Yeah.
You have a lot of followers. So if someone wants to follow you on social media, how can they do that?
Just look up Alex Powell and put I don't know what it's called, but just look up Alex Powell and it'll come up. There's something in between every letter, but I forget what the mark is called. So.
Okay.
Just look up Alex Powell and it'll come up.
All right, very good. That's excellent. Anything else you want to say about your life, about your faith, or just to encourage anybody watching this video?
Just keep fighting. I mean, life is gonna throw stuff at you, and sometimes you won't expect it. I mean, most of the time you won't expect it, and it all serves a purpose in the end, and it's hard to realize that sometimes. But when you go to God and you keep praying about it, you'll definitely realize that it all had a purpose in the end.
That's beautiful. All right, that's Alex Powell. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so happy that you would do this and be on the I'm Excited podcast. So God bless you. And I like I said to Isaac, I hope this opens doors for even wider audiences to hear your story and for you to give your testimony and to try to inspire others to put their faith in Christ, even under difficult circumstances. So thank you so much.
Of course, thank you for having me.
All right, we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening.